6 tons of muscle, teeth and sonar. An animal that can kill anything in the sea. Great whites, blue whales, bull sharks, humpbacks. Nothing is off the table. Except you. In all of recorded human history, there is not a single confirmed case of a wild orca killing a human being. Before we get into the orcas, let's spend a minute on the great white shark, because these two predators handle the same situation in completely different ways, and understanding one helps you understand the other. Great white sharks do not eat people. I know that sounds wrong. I know your uncle has a story. We've all watched Jaws, but the science has been settled for a while now. Humans are bony, lean and full of skeleton. A seal is about 50% fat. That is a meal. You and me, we are a bag of coat hangers wrapped in a thin layer of jerky. A great white has an extremely slow digestive system, so if it eats something suboptimal, something like a human, that slows its gut down for days. It cannot eat anything else during that time. For a shark, eating a person is like filling up your truck with sugar water. Sure, something went in the tank, but now nothing works and you are stuck on the side of the road. Back in 1985, a scientist named John McCosker figured out what was actually happening in most shark encounters. He called it the bite and spit hypothesis. A great white hits a seal with one massive bite, then backs off and waits for the animal to bleed out before coming back to eat. Safe, efficient, low risk. When a shark bites a human, it does the same thing. One big bite, then it lets go. And when it realizes there is no blubber, no fat layer, no calorie-dense reward, it just leaves. It does not come back. A man named Steve Brewer survived exactly this in California. The shark grabbed him across the thighs and abdomen, pulled him under and then spit him right back out. He stated that he wasn't a seal and that the shark was looking for a seal. The International Shark Attack File recorded 65 unprovoked shark bites worldwide in 2025. 9 of those were fatal, out of billions of ocean interactions every single year. The state of Florida alone had 11 bites, which was actually below its 5-year average. You are more likely to get hurt at a church potluck than by a shark. I have seen what happens when Aunt Linda loses track of her casserole dish. That is real danger. A study out of Macquarie University in 2021 modeled what sharks actually see from below the surface. Turns out, from a shark's eye view, a surfer on a board looks almost identical to a seal. The outline, the paddle motion, the silhouette. Sharks do not have great eyesight to begin with, and here is a detail that really pulls it all together. When a great white commits to a strike, its eyes roll backward into its skull. It hits its target completely blind. It cannot tell what it bit until after the bite. So the shark is not choosing to attack a human. It is making a guess in low visibility, committing to that guess with its eyes closed, and then going, "No, that was wrong," and leaving. That is not a monster. That is a nearsighted dog snapping at a tennis ball and getting a pine cone. Now let's talk about orcas, because orcas are a completely different conversation. Sharks bite people by accident and regret it. Orcas do not bite people at all, and it is not an accident. It is a choice. And the reason behind that choice is one of the most fascinating things in the animal kingdom. An orca can kill a great white shark. That is not an exaggeration, and it is not rare. Orcas off the coast of South Africa have been documented flipping great whites upside down, which puts the shark into a paralytic state called tonic immobility, and then surgically removing the liver. Just the liver. They leave the rest. That is like going to a buffet, removing one specific item from the steam tray and walking out. These are not mindless predators. These are specialists. Different orca populations around the world hunt completely different prey using completely different methods, and every single technique is learned. Not instinctual, learned. Passed down from mother to calf like a family recipe. In Antarctica, orcas work together to create waves that wash seals off ice floes. They coordinate, they time it. In Patagonia, orcas beach themselves on purpose to grab sea lion pups off the sand and then wiggle back into the water. And the mothers teach their calves how to do this, practicing in safe areas first. Off the coasts of California and New Zealand, orcas have been observed suffocating blue whales. Blue whales, the largest animal that has ever lived on this planet. Orcas take them down by working in shifts, holding them under until they drown. This is the most capable predator on Earth, and it is not even close. So why does this animal, the one that kills great whites for a single organ, that drowns blue whales for sport, that teaches its children military-grade hunting techniques, why has it never once hunted a human? The answer is culture, and not loosely, the same way you would talk about your family's culture, the food your grandmother made, the way your people do things. Orcas are one of a very small number of animals on this planet that transmit culture across generations, and the most important piece of that culture is the food list. What counts as food is not determined by hunger, or opportunity, or what happens to be swimming nearby. It is determined by what your mother taught you, and her mother taught her, and so on, going back hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Resident orcas in the Pacific Northwest eat salmon, Chinook salmon specifically. That is their food. There are seals everywhere, harbor seals swimming right past them, fat and slow and easy to catch, and the orcas ignore them completely. Studies of dead resident orcas have shown that their diets are so locked in, so culturally rigid, that they will starve before they eat something that is not on the family menu. That is not instinct. That is tradition. That is your grandfather refusing to eat at a restaurant that was not there when he was growing up. Think about where humans fall in this system. No orca mother in the entire history of the species has ever taught her calf that a human being is food. The lesson was never given, so the hunt never starts. It is not that orcas looked at us and decided we were not worth it. It is that we were never entered into the database to begin with. We are not on the list. We have never been on the list. And orcas do not improvise. There is also the echolocation angle. Orcas navigate and identify prey using sonar, sending out clicks, reading the return signal, and building a picture of what is in the water. To an orca, a Chinook salmon has a specific acoustic signature. A seal has a different one. A human being with our weird lung capacity, our dense bones, and especially if we are wearing a wetsuit, returns a sonar profile that does not match anything an orca recognizes as food. We do not sound like food. We do not look like food. And because no orca was ever taught we are food, the system never engages. Deborah Giles, who runs the Wild Orca nonprofit in Washington State, put it this way: there has certainly been ample opportunity for killer whales to kill humans, and they just have not. It is perplexing. Eric Hoyt, who wrote the book Orca, the Whale Called Killer, said, "I do not think a killer whale would ever hunt a human. They are fussy eaters, really conservative in terms of whatever they learned from their mothers and from their pod about what constitutes food. These animals are not showing mercy. They are showing discipline, a level of cultural consistency that most human families cannot maintain past 2 Thanksgivings." Now here is where the story gets dark. The only humans ever killed by orcas were killed in captivity, not in the ocean, in swimming pools, concrete tanks, and the most famous case is Tilikum. Tilikum was a male orca captured off the coast of Iceland in 1983 when he was about 2 years old. Taken from his mother, taken from his pod, taken from his family's cultural knowledge and communication and hunting traditions, and put in a tank. Over the course of his life in captivity, Tilikum was involved in the deaths of 3 people, including SeaWorld trainer Dawn Brancheau on February 24, 2010. But here is what matters. He never ate any of them, not one. Because even in a state of psychological destruction, even after decades of confinement, the cultural programming held. Humans are not food. He was not hunting. He was broken. Captivity takes everything from an orca. Their pods use specific dialects, unique calls that belong to their family and no one else. Put an orca in a concrete tank and the echolocation bounces off the walls and comes back distorted. It is like locking a person in a room full of mirrors where every sound is a scream. They cannot hear properly. They cannot communicate. They have no family, no culture, no escape. And we were surprised when one of them snapped. That is like being surprised your dog bit someone after you kept it chained to a post in a parking lot for 30 years. The wild orcas, though, they have honored a truce with us that they have absolutely no reason to keep. And what have we done in return? We collapsed their food supply. Chinook salmon populations in the Pacific Northwest have been in freefall for decades because of dams, habitat destruction, and overfishing. The southern resident orca population, one of the most studied groups on Earth, is starving. Fewer than 75 of them remain. We deafened them. Commercial shipping traffic generates constant low-frequency noise that interferes directly with orca echolocation and communication. Imagine trying to have a conversation with your family at a truck stop where 18-wheelers are revving their engines 24 hours a day, and that conversation is also how you find food. That is what we did to them. We poisoned them. Industrial pollutants, PCBs, and heavy metals accumulate in orca blubber. And here is the worst part. A mother orca's first calf receives the highest concentration of those toxins through her milk. The first baby gets the most poison. Her body offloads its lifetime of contamination into her firstborn child. Many of those calves do not survive. And that brings me to Tahlequah. In the summer of 2018, a southern resident orca known as Tahlequah, designated J35 by researchers, gave birth to a calf. The calf died within 30 minutes. For the next 17 days, Tahlequah carried her dead baby on her head through the Pacific Ocean. 17 days, over 1,000 miles. She would not let the body sink. Other members of her pod took turns helping her, pushing the calf back to the surface when it slipped. Scientists who observed this called it a tour of grief. The whole world watched, and for a few weeks, people cared. Tahlequah did eventually let go. She has since given birth to other calves. But that image, a mother carrying her dead child across an ocean because the water we polluted and the food supply we destroyed took that baby from her. That image tells you everything you need to know about the gap between these animals and us. The orcas kept their end of the deal. They never hunted us, never hurt us. They had every capability and every opportunity, and they chose through culture, through tradition, through a system of knowledge passed down across generations, not to. Meanwhile, off the coast of Spain and Portugal, a small population of Iberian orcas started ramming sailboats in 2020. Over 700 interactions recorded through 2026, and they have sunk at least 7 boats. Not a single person has been hurt, not one. Because even when they are angry or playing or traumatized by whatever happened to a female named White Gladys, they still do not hurt people. Researchers think the behavior may be spreading culturally through the group, a new tradition, not hunting, just pushing back. Danish biologist Hanne Strage said that he thinks they just think humans are some odd thing, certainly not food, and not really anything that they are bothered by. But it is deeper than that. Orcas have made a decision about us that we have not earned, and every year, as we take more of their salmon and make more noise in their water and pass more poison to their babies, that decision becomes more generous than we deserve. We started by asking why orcas do not kill us. The real question is whether we are going to stop killing them before they run out of reasons to keep the peace. Because right now, a mother orca in the Pacific Northwest is teaching her calf what to eat, how to hunt, and who is family. And somehow, after everything, we are still not on the other list. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Hidden Lens, and I'll see you in the next one.